let's bring on EOSphere. Let's have them come on, and we can get started with them. They are a candidate based out of Australia, and I believe I've seen some really cool updates on Twitter about them doing meetups across of Australia, and Australia is a pretty big landmass, and for them to be able to cover one corner to the other, they're on a really big road tour. They're going, I believe I saw Perth, which is on the western end of Australia, and then all the way to the east end, Brisbane. I think it's said in an interesting way. Hey guys.
Hey Ross, welcome. Thank you for coming on.
Ross is on there while he's working on his thing. I think they also covered Sydney, Adelaide. I believe there was part in. They might have gone to Queensland too, which is in the northeast of Australia. Hey Ross, Can you hear us?
Good morning. Yes, I can hear you good. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Sound good. Yeah. Thank you for joining us. I think we're also waiting on Ken. Is that right?
Yeah, he was just coming in on another link.
Perfect. Yeah, and we were just talking about your meetup tour, trying to remember all the cities you hit. I think there were 5 of them. Is that right?
Yeah, 5 cities. Yeah, I can give you the rundown of that. There's Ken.
Hey Ken.
Hey Ken. Welcome.
Morning, guys, or should I say good evening?
Yeah.
Hey, well, for us evening, but good morning to you. I believe is it 6 in the morning over there?
It is 6 o'clock in the morning.
That's right.
That's amazing. You guys are smiling. It's hard to believe at 6 in the morning, but thank you for drinking your coffee and joining us here.
I'm smiling because we're on your show.
Yeah.
Thanks. Yeah. Well, that's very flattering.
Did you guys hit up Queensland in the northeast there?
Yes, we went to Brisbane.
Brisbane, that's right.
Brisbane.
Okay.
Also known as Bris Vegas in Australia.
Oh.
Is that right?
You did some gambling, did you?
No, I didn't do any gambling.
You have better things to spend money on, I'm sure.
Yeah, like flights and accommodation.
Yeah,
Right.
And EOS.
And EOS, yeah. Believe looking good today.
Yeah. Well, welcome, guys. So we have Ross and Ken from EOSphere. Did I say it right? Is that how would you guys like to say it?
Yep, that's right.
All right, awesome. And guys, we normally do a who, what, where, why, when, and that's the nature of these interviews. Basically, let everybody know about you as a block candidate, and we start off with the who. So I mean,
All right.
go ahead.
Let me take this one, Ken.
Sure.
So we are a Australian-based company where primarily we aim to bootstrap the EOS community in Australia. The name EOSphere comes from obviously EOS, but sphere meaning encompassing an ecosystem and a community. And we don't aim to only support Australia. We aim to support the entire EOSphere. You would have seen that in a few of our statements. At this point, there are 5 of us on the team. There's myself, co-founder, and then obviously Ken, my other co-founder. It was actually Ken that rallied us together originally as a team. We then have Walter Bewakwa, who does our technical architecture. We have Rick Schmidt, who is our community manager, and we have Shelley Gold, who's our marketing and events coordinator. It was actually Shelley that put together the entire meetup tour, managed to schedule all of the venues, get the catering sorted, make sure audio visual was correct, etc., travel and accommodation and the like. So you guys are talking a little bit about our meetup tour. Yeah, maybe I can give you a little rundown about that. It's still kind of about who we are. It was our primary and initiative that we actually ran with, where we wanted to say, okay, let's go and see on Australia and see what the EOS community is all about. Because Ken had mentioned a few times that we hadn't really seen any meetups or any kind of conversation about what's going on in this neck of the woods. So we decided to do this 5-city meetup tour. We went to Perth, then we went to Brisbane, Adelaide, Sydney, Melbourne. All up, we saw about 300 attendees if you take all of the venues, which isn't bad considering Australia isn't as large as what you guys would have expected in the States, etc. But the turnout was great. The people we met were fantastic. was such an amazing experience. You know, I certainly have got a lot more respect for people that tour and do multiple conferences back to back, because wow, did it take it out of me. And the rest of the team, wow, it was really tough. You know, we also got to meet a lot of people from different walks and backs of life, where some guys are developers, some guys are just speculators on tokens. Some people just wanted to know what the hell blockchain is, and you know, they just happened to come to an EOS event.
That works.
And Ken?
Oh, in terms of the meetup tour and the like, I just really enjoyed meeting everyone that came along. People were curious. They were incredibly friendly. I think that's maybe anyone who's involved in EOS, I think, has certain values at heart. And they were very supportive as well in terms of what we were doing, and really grateful that we had organised and put this on. And I think I just had a quick look, Ross, before we came on there. I think we've now got over 620 EOS members in EOS Australia across the country, which is to building a community here. That's what the purpose was about, was to really gather that community.
That's great. Well done. And when you say just incredibly friendly people, that describes all of Australia, right? Not just EOS fans.
Yes, Australians are incredibly friendly, yeah.
Got something to do with the weather.
Yeah.
That's it, yeah. Well,
now, sorry.
Go ahead,
Bluejays. How many poisonous animals did you encounter on this meetup tour?
None.
Good.
Okay. Sorry, that's all we seem to think about outside of Australia, is all the extremely high number of deadly animals you guys have, and all. Excuse me there. So anyway, let's go ahead forward to your backgrounds before EOS. Where do you guys come from?
Yeah, that Ken?
Yeah, sure. So Ross and I, we've worked with each other for the last 10 years for a large global systems integration and services IT company. So that's how we got to know each other. We've built data centers for hospitals, banks, and the like together. But Ross, interestingly, back in late 2013, introduced me to the world of cryptocurrencies. Ross was mining Litecoin back in the day. And I actually, just the person that I am, I'd done a bit of research and stumbled across something fascinating called Protoshares, which I don't know if you're aware is the precursor to Bitshares. That was how Bitshares was essentially crowdfunded. Well, that was it. I tell the story on the meetup tour. I took the red pill, completely immersed myself in all things cryptocurrencies, and Ross and I, for the past 4 years or so, have worked on nearly all of Dan Larimer's projects and work. And we've got to the point now where actually we've made this our full-time gig. So, we're dedicated, Ross and I are both dedicated full-time to EOSphere and trying to build the EOS community, offer the community a quality block producer as an option candidate. And we're really excited that we get to do this every day now. It's absolutely, a major goal for both of us that we've achieved this.
He always touts me as the person that got him into cryptocurrency. I remember him convincing me to sell off my Litecoin to get into Protoshares. And it's just kept on going from there. The whole Protoshares and Angel shares. I can even remember 2 years ago, Ken standing at my office door saying, "Ross, you've got to read this thing. It's called Steam." And Dan was talking about it on Bitshares Talk. You've got to get in on it. I'm like, okay, well, you're right with the Bitshares and the Angel shares, so let's do it.
Ken, what attracted you to Protoshares?
There was an interesting concept that's actually got some parallels today with EOS in the sense that the proto part of Protoshares, if you held Protoshares, then you got a share in any project that was launched by the Invictus team or Dan Larimer's team. So I think back in the day we had like Bitshares Music, Bitshares Vote, I think Bitshares Play came later, the Dex, Bitshares X. And so it was very well, structured and the like. And of course, back in late 2013, 2014, a decentralized exchange. Dan was way ahead of his time back then, and it was probably one of the most exciting projects, going around compared to just a traditional, currency transfer blockchain.
See the common thread here. It's like we tend to be following Dan wherever he goes.
Yeah, that's true.
Well, you're just following the best blockchain. I mean, obviously, Dan is still, it seems he's still far ahead of everybody else in terms of account recovery, numerous other things he's baking into the EOS IO software. And you guys were actually witnesses, which also known as block producers for Bitshares. Is that right? And for Steam?
Yeah, but for Bitshares, we got involved early. We were stakeholders, and I actually had an idea to create an application called Mine Bitshares. At the time, most people involved in blockchain cryptocurrencies, mining was probably the way that everyone got involved. And so, but you couldn't mine Bitshares, of course, because it was a DPoS, eventually graphene-based project. So I had some experience and developed a site called Mine Bitshares that allowed people to effectively mine Bitshares. What was actually happening behind the scenes was that they were mining traditional altcoins. We would sell them off, buy BitUSD. That's what Dan got involved with. Dan was quite excited about this idea about bringing new people and introducing them to the stability of BitUSD. And I think back maybe I ran that project for about a year or so. It was very time intensive. One, I had to develop the site, and we actually had Bitshares witnesses as support to help fund it. And eventually, it never really took off. We tried really hard, and I ended up donating the site, the code to the community. And actually, a really good chap, I think Jonathan Bahai, took it over, took it to the next level. But I don't think it exists today. But it was an interesting idea at the time. It was virtual mining for BitUSD.
So you guys are really veterans in the space, essentially, in Dan's world, I guess you would say. Why are you running for block producer?
Why are we running for block producer? I think that we ultimately want to realize that vision of a blockchain, smart contract, decentralized platform, actually bringing all the promises that we've heard that it can be delivered to reality. And we feel that the expertise and heritage that we bring will enable at least the DPoS side of things. We would be a positive block producer for the actual ecosystem itself, to make sure it's healthy, etc. And we got a few other ideas about community engagement. I think we'll run through that in a moment. But ultimately, we feel very positively and strongly about what general purpose blockchain and what it can actually do for the world.
And from my perspective, I think there was a calling for block producers. This is a community launch blockchain. And when we looked at our heritage, both from a professional perspective and obviously with Dan's previous work, we thought, well, look, I'm sure that we've got a set of attributes that would be appreciated by token holders who want quality, well-known entities to actually help start this network as well. And we're really excited about the prospect of what being a block producer can actually do for helping to grow the ecosystem, especially in our part of the world.
So, maybe we should touch on a bit of our community initiatives. I am extremely passionate about feeding it back to the developer and education community. We've spent a lot of effort on this meetup tour. We've met a lot of people that have got ideas for decentralized apps, and we've got people with a lot of ideas for actually getting involved because they are developers and they want to be part of this new age. One of our initial initiatives now is we actually sponsoring the Blockchain Center in Melbourne. We actually sponsor them for a meetup each month. I don't know if we mentioned earlier, but we completely self-funded at the moment, so it's not like we can funnel all of our funds directly into education and developer assistance, which is part of what our actual manifesto is for what we want to want to do when we actually become block producers. So we started off a bit small. So we funded the blockchain center. We're currently investigating assisting universities with courses. Ken, anything you can add?
Yeah, look, those are early discussions just now in terms of a couple of the key forward-thinking universities here in Australia. But you know, we're really, I think EOS is going to be successful anyway. But if we can get support for developers, education happening in each of the different regions throughout the world, then we can really accelerate adoption.
So obviously we doing what we can in our region, which is Australia, right? Not to say that, you know, we're not interested in supporting, if we had to be elected, supporting the rest of the world. You know, for instance, some kind of community initiative. I know EOS Go is going to need some funding at some point. You know, we are supporters of the Chintai initiative at the moment. You know, I'm not quite sure what that means as far as financial support, but we certainly pledge our support to be doing whatever we can if we were elected.
Well, that's why I'm glad to see you or talk to you guys here. You are doing a great job putting out content, doing meetups. Obviously, that meetup tour was huge. And I would argue that your videos thus far have been some of the most comprehensive guides and also the most professionally done. So I would say kudos there.
Man, I saw last night that we just did 1,100 views on our block producer animation.
That was a great video. I mean, it really explained a lot. It's excellent for anyone who is either involved in EOS or even trying to get involved in EOS. So thank you guys for putting out that great content. And it's also nice to bring you on here and sort of let the world see you guys, because you are down under, as they say. So thank you for coming on. Let's talk about where you will be located, where the servers will be, and so on and so forth.
I can take this if you like, Ross. So we've detailed in our candidacy statement that we're going to be leveraging cloud infrastructure off the bat. So we've got lots of experience with AWS and Google's cloud platforms. And the reason for choosing cloud is a couple of reasons. First, really, is to give us that agility. We're really preparing for the worst in terms of the network trying to be potentially disrupted by external forces. And we think that, we know that by using cloud, we're able to move systems quickly, dynamically scale up and down, readjust our, DDoS prevention capabilities and the like. So it just gives us that agility and mitigates quite a bit of risk, I think, from our perspective. In terms of, where are we going to locate the servers? It's likely that we'll have our primary production servers in Sydney, and we'll have our failovers possibly in Singapore. So what we're doing just now is we're actually ramping up and doing a lot of latency tests, as you well know, with half-second block times and dance discussions about potential handover from BPs. We need to make sure that latency isn't an issue. I mean, we've got some really good connections through to Australia, so it's effectively, just the same as the rest of the world. But that's the key thinking and reasoning, and it allows us to quickly scale if needed as well. There's some incredible systems on these platforms these days. I think, Ross, what sort of memory capacity?
Yeah, you can get to like 4 terabytes on AWS of memory, which is like, wow.
That is a lot. Wow.
There's a lot, 128 vCPUs. Yeah, it's quite a beast.
You guys are making are making a large investment. That's excellent. That's great.
Well, I think the idea is that we're using the cloud so that we're going to mitigate any kind of logistics issues we got if we own our own infrastructure and then suddenly realize we need double the memory. Then we got to wait, 5 weeks for the hardware to arrive. I think personally, I'd probably prefer to have our own infrastructure at some point, but we need to get to a point where we right-sized so we understand what we need.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think a lot of block producers are going that way.
Are you currently using AWS for Steam witnessing?
Yeah.
I think I'm a backup witness in effect now on Steam, and that's actually running on Google's platform. So that's been for quite a while.
Yeah, I'm actually hosted in a data center on bare metal in my Steam node.
I see.
Well, I'm also a backup witness at this point.
Okay, good to know. Anything else from the hardware perspective you guys wanted to let the viewers know?
I think it's interesting.
I was going to say maybe not the hardware perspective, but I think the other aspect of our solution for BP infrastructure that's probably important to call out is the operational aspects. So as seasoned data center professionals, we recognize that it's great having a fantastic hardware solution, but if you don't have the operational rigor surrounding it, then in terms of monitoring, capacity management, incident management, then you're not doing the solution, full justice in effect. So that's something that we're going to have on day zero. So I think it's important that if we are elected as initial block producer, that we're easy to be contacted by our peers. So we'll have a 24/7 capability to get in touch with us. And we hope we're actually working on some monitoring tools just now that we're really open to sharing with the rest of the BP community to use some of our experience and say, look, guys, this is what we're using to help us monitor and keep an eye on the systems and know quickly if there's any capacity issues or performance spikes and the like. Maybe you guys might want to use the same.
How fantastic would it be if we had a single pane of glass that we could actually see the health of the entire chain?
Yeah,
sounds incredible to me. I would love that. And let's also talk about, let's move forward to the harder questions. We've been asking each block producer candidate about dividends and their stance on dividends and how that might work out. What are your thoughts?
Well, I feel very strongly on, against that. And I'm really glad that there's been some clarity from Thomas in terms of vote buying and the like. And the reason being is I see a scenario where if there was vote buying or dividends, then essentially we'd have a race to zero for block producers in terms of the margin, say, for want of a better word, that they would make. Imagine a scenario where you have a block producer that says, you vote for me and I'll return a proportion of block rewards. They're no doubt going to become popular very quickly. And so others will think, well, why can't I do that? They'll do that. But of course, to get an advantage, they'll offer more of the block rewards than the other person. And you can see quickly we'll have a race to zero where you could even get a scenario where the funds required to actually maintain and scale the blockchain infrastructure is threatened, because the only way to stay competitive would be to offer more and more of the block rewards through to the vote, those that vote for you. So really, what's the point? We're better off not having inflation and the like if that's a scenario that we want to see. So we're pretty strongly against it. We're glad that it's been clarified, and we think that we can do a lot more for the EOS ecosystem by the community benefit activities that we're all doing around the globe. I think that's going to be incredibly powerful. If we're doing all that in parallel, then it's not just reliant on Block One's initiatives or EOS VC's initiative. We have a third stream of activity happening that I think will create very, very mass adoption of EOS.
One question I forgot to ask in the technical segment was, what do you guys think about the EOS storage and how that's going to be different when it comes to EOS rather than Steemit or Bitshares?
So well, I'll take that. So I actually had a conversation with Walter. He's obviously our technical architect. He actually works in the storage world. So he actually, the one day he created this whole mad scientist drawing about how he sees the IPFS side of things actually coming together. He's still got a lot of questions, and I think that he's actually going to be putting together a collection of questions that hopefully he can get some direction from the devs. The other blockchains obviously don't have any direct storage that is referenced by the chain itself. I think it's fantastic. It takes it to the next level in order to support applications for enterprise, where it might be pretty difficult for them to host their own storage. But then the other question is also, how much storage do you actually use of your actual app itself? Getting a run through technically about how it aims to work, it seems pretty revolutionary. And I think that we're going to keep our ear close to the ground and probably work a little bit closer with the devs that are involved in order to understand exactly how we can put this into implementation. But we're very pro it.
Yeah, the good thing is it's not scheduled to be released until, I think, the end of the year. So
that is a very good thing.
I think a lot of block producers are happy about that.
Yeah.
Let's also talk about, we were looking at Bluejays. We had a question that we wanted to bring up with them about, remind me, let's see. Sorry about that. Had a moment.
Was it the community engagement question?
Community engagement, of course, important. Let's move forward to, well, this is a question we ask everybody that comes on the show. Where do you guys see EOS going? I mean, give us a year forward. How is the blockchain looking? What is the future for EOS, we should say?
Okay, I think both of us are going to want to answer this because we both got different perspectives. I see that once we demonstrate that the platform can in fact take the number of transactions per second and can scale as expected, I think we'll see a migration of apps coming from other platforms. Let me take a week.
So that brings to the famous quote that Dan made on Telegram. He talked about BTC coming on EOS when there's a two-way currency peg. So basically what he's saying is if we set up a value transfer, then we have the infrastructure on EOS. Is that pretty much what he's saying? We just need to set up a currency peg?
Well, the BTC side of things, didn't read too much into that. I was more talking about the decentralized apps.
Oh yeah. Well, if you didn't know, on Telegram, he mentioned that.
Yeah, I remember.
Yeah. Okay.
What I'm most interested and excited about with the EOS platform is apps that probably we're not even aware that is possible today. We spoke about it in our meetup tour. We actually compared, the number of transactions that are required, say, for Visa, Facebook, and a centralized exchange.
Yeah.
With the context that why do we need millions of transactions per second? Well, if we're going to be running thousands of concurrent enterprise dApps with millions of users each, then that's why we need it. Because I think anyone who's looked at this can see that Steam and Bitshares today are really underutilized in terms of what they're capable of. But I think one of the most exciting aspects is the potential Steam integration. Brendan mentioned and Dan mentioned that there's going to be some sort of Steam integration that are going to address the distribution issue that occurs with Steam today. And if you look at some of the new platforms that are running on the Steam blockchain that were created by the community, such as DTube and DLive, those types of ideas are really exciting. And Everipedia is a great example of that in terms of providing a platform to essentially incentivize people to create content. So that I'm really excited about what might happen with the Steam-like integrations with EOS.
Very cool, very cool.
Very nice.
I think we have our next guest coming up on here soon. His name is Mabod Moghadam from Everipedia.
We're just talking about him.
Hey, how's it going, guys?
Hey, good to see you.
Hey.
All right, is this working? Sorry, this is my first time Zooming. That's why I'm being a little bit of a novice.
That's okay.
That's all right.
Once you go Zoom, you can't go back.
Once you go Zoom, the app goes kaboom.
There you go. You're a rapper.
Well,
Yes, sir. Well, how's it? So yeah, well, what's going on, guys? Wait, so you, I think, did I just come in on? You guys were talking about what Everipedia is.
Yes.
That's all we talk about here. Absolutely. Everpedia all day long.
Really? Well, do you guys have pages on the site? We can make your pages.
Yeah, I mean, we would love that. Definitely. Yeah.
For sure. Yeah. Also for the show.
Well, let's wrap up with EOSphere, guys. Did you guys want to, Ross and Ken, is there anything else that you guys wanted to say? And we just wanted to say thank you guys so much for coming on.
Well, and also, where can people find more about you guys? Because you are so far down under. Where can people follow you and keep up? And what would you like them to? Where would you like them to go?
Well, I would say Twitter. That's the first stop. All the links to all of our videos and any content we post on Steam, it's on Twitter. Shelly would like you to probably use Instagram a bit more. We're going to be in Hong Kong for the EOS IO meetup on the 6th of April, I think it is. So if anybody's around there, come and find us and have a conversation.
Cool.
Watch this space. I think we will be having some kind of function in the next month or so. Another meetup, maybe just a local one. And and then once we launch the chain, we'll have some kind of block launch party.
Awesome.
And I can keep threatening it. Shelly's really looking for venues.
Well, cool. Thank you guys very much again. Bluejays and I talked to you a little bit before the show as well, and we both agreed you both sound like good guys. I mean, so we're just excited to have you on the show, and thank you for coming on. Looking forward to this journey with you guys.
Thanks guys. Enjoy the launch party.
Thanks.
Cheers, guys.
Cheers. Bye.
See you later.